Okay, so hopefully everybody can see my slides, and I will just talk us through what's going to happen today, and then we can kick off um, with the Q&A webinar. So welcome everybody. My name is Jenny Smith. I'm the Communications, Engagement and Events Manager for the Trinity Challenge, and I've been working on our youth engagement project for the last year and a half. Today we are here for the Q&A webinar with regards to our third youth competition, which is focused on educating for behaviour change. So just to let you know that we'd love you to introduce yourselves in the chat, tell us what your name is, where you're from, and what you're interested in AMR or behaviour change, or if it's specific to one of the topic areas as well. So just a review of the agenda. I'll do this little welcome and overview, and then we'll go into some information on campaigning and more specifically the topic of educating for behaviour change. We'll look at the different campaign topics that fall into that, the campaign categories, I think we're calling them. So, and then I'll give a competition outline. We'll look at the application, and then we've got time for a Q&A at the end. So let us know if you've got any questions. Also, the Q&A should already be open. So if a question pops into your mind right at the start, then feel free to put it in the Q&A, and I can answer it at the end, or one of my colleagues will answer it as we go. So feel free to do that as well. So moving into a little bit about the youth summit that we just held. So we held our third youth summit on Tuesday, the 9th of September. And the focus of that was educating for behaviour change. And so we were supported by a lot of our wonderful partners. We had loads of fantastic facilitators and scribes supporting us who are past winners or key members of our community and network. We had over 130 participants attend from 27 different countries, with 6 regions represented there. As you all know, we're very keen to get global representation, so we were a bit disappointed not to get 7, but great to have 6 regions represented. And as a lot of you know, there are 7 funding pots available, each for up to £7,500. And that's what we'll be talking a bit about today. So, campaigning for behaviour change. Hopefully by this point, everybody knows what antimicrobial resistance is. Everybody knows what the antibiotic emergency is, and what we're doing at the Trinity Challenge is empowering young people to deliver campaigns, whether it's awareness campaigns, behaviour change campaigns, in order to mitigate the antibiotic emergency. So sorry. Is Rachel here?
We don't have Rachel at present, Jenny, so if you want to just crack.
Okay. Sorry, everyone, I've got a bit of a cough. So no problem. So what we want to talk about is the EAST model. So EAST stands for easy, attractive, social, and timely. And these are 4 key principles that significantly influence people to make a desired behavior change. So this model is from the Behavioral Insights team. And there's so many resources online. This is just a really simple way of structuring a behavior change campaign. So we highly recommend looking into this and using it when you are doing your application, and just trying to let it help you think about how to structure. So we'll be sharing some links throughout this, and one of them is the Behavioural Insights team worked with NHS England in order to better explain what was going on with the EAST model. So looking at each individual aspect, easy. So as we all know, behavior change is an incredibly difficult thing to do and to do well. And so it's really about making it as easy and simple as possible, removing any small barriers that can have effects on behavior. So we really want to keep it simple and to the point, so that it means that you're as successful as possible. the information that I referred to, the website that I referred to on the previous page, has a simple video for each one of these EAST aspects. So definitely have a look at those. A is about it being attractive. So we're definitely more likely to do something that our attention is drawn to. So making it look appealing, making it sound appealing, giving people examples so that they can fully understand what the change is, a really good way of moving forward. S stands for social. Observing or being told what most people do in a situation can encourage others to do the same. So making it a social norm. How do we make it so that people automatically think of that thing when they're moving into a behavior change? How do we make it so that people, when they think of AMR, that they automatically know that they need to get a prescription? How do we make that that a social norm and that change? And then timely, choose the right moment. So behaviors vary according to the time of day, time of week, and the time of someone's life. So as we know, for example, if you have a family and you're incredibly busy and you've got lots of children and you're also working and you're doing lots of things, recycling might not be top of your priority list. So it's making sure that you get the moment right when you want to engage with a specific audience space. And that's something that, again, these videos refer to. So I highly recommend having a look at that. Okay, measurement. So measurement is one of the things that really makes the behavior change campaigns different to awareness raising campaigns. We want to understand the impact of the behavior change that we've had and how successful it's been over a period of time. So these are some of the tools that you can use, and these are what they measure. So I know that in our Wash and Schools uh, applications, a lot of them did surveys at the beginning of the campaign, and they did a survey at the end of campaign so that they could realize and measure that impact. Um, Obviously, if you're doing social media campaigns, our Kazakhstan team for the Wash and Schools did a fantastic social media campaign, and you can see digital metrics with beyond that. You can also do things like interviews and focus groups, diaries and self-monitoring, and behavioral indicators. So seeing the change in real life. So make sure that you keep measurement in your mind as much as possible. So all of this is quite theoretical, and I like to bring things to life wherever I can. So I wanted to show you some real world examples of behavior change campaigns. So this first one is from an organization uh, in Malaysia, which is Global Action in the Interest of Animals. And what they did to really highlight the harm to wildlife that plastic bags can have is they put dead animals on plastic bags. It's really impactful, it's very visual, it's something that people won't forget easily, and so therefore it's really good um force for behavior change in the background. So I know it's quite shocking, but sometimes shock works. And so this is a really fantastic campaign and seems to have done a really good job. The second example that I wanted to raise was the Share the Load campaign, which was from, oh my God, is it Purcell? I've forgotten. No, Ariel, sorry, Ariel, in India. And it was about the role of women within the family. And now that, people are working and also caring for children, also caring for the rest of the family. And it was all about men taking a bigger share of the load, which actually was a really transformational campaign and did really well in pushing people. So sometimes you can force a behavior change just by highlighting the current situation, and I think that's what they did really well there. If you search for like current behavior change campaigns globally, then there's loads more examples as well that are really great and maybe more relevant to whatever the angle is that you're taking for behavior change. But a lot of these work really well. We all know that adverts can do that to us. So I'll move on to the campaign topics, campaign categories. We decided this time to look at the whole One Health environment. So some of the topics are, some of the categories are focused on human health, some on environment, and some on animal health. And we thought that this would mean that you would really be able to tailor it to your local needs, your local environment. So I know that if you attended the youth summit, you will have seen this, but we think it's really important to go through the different topics again and just give you a bit of a flavour as to each one. So, like I said, full One Health sphere, and we're looking at livestock animals first. So, um, I mean, the last Trinity Challenge youth competition ended up focusing on animal health and looked at biosecurity in animal health and vaccination best practice. If you're thinking about doing livestock animals, take a look at the projects that came last time. You can see them on our YouTube channel, and then try and do a different approach, try and do something different. So what we're really looking for here is innovation. But as we all know, livestock animals, overuse of antibiotics can lead to resistant bacteria that spreads through animals, and this goes and links to all the others with animal health, human health, the environment, and the food chain. But if you're thinking about doing livestock animals, we know that there's a lot of work going on in the AMR space in livestock animals, and so you can do that, but try and be a little bit inventive in the way that you approach it. Companion animals. So we know that a lot of the global organizations are currently updating their guidance and guidelines to include more about companion animals. Obviously, pets share close physical contact with people. They're in the house, they're in amongst the families, and so overprescription or misuse of antibiotics can affect them just the same as they affect humans. So looking at that, looking at responsible antibiotic use in veterinary care, uh, and also obviously focus on owners of animals and owners of pets is a really interesting topic. And again, something that we haven't looked at previously. So we'd really love to see some applications focused on this. Food chain. Food chain was a sort of semi aspect of the last competition, but we know that there's loads more that people can look at with this. Obviously, AMR can move from farm to fork. So whether it's in livestock, in a slaughterhouse, in a butcher's, or all the way to the consumer, which I think looking at consumers, looking at restaurants, looking at supermarkets, all of those things are part of the food chain. And there's lots of different behavior change campaigns that we can do to really strengthen food safety, hygiene, and surveillance, and reduce the risk of AMR. So food chain, another really interesting one. Environment. So this is one of my favorite topics. I work a lot in climate, and I think looking at soil health, the health of our rivers and lakes and oceans, and this being a transmission route for resistant bacteria, especially now because of plastic. Microplastics can hold bacteria on them. So the microplastics that are in our oceans, that are in our lakes, are carriers for resistant bacteria as well. And as we know, microplastics are now in human blood. So really interesting topic. If you've got any expertise in that area, really would love to see some applications in that space. But yeah, how do we reduce pollution, improve farming and aquaculture practices, give people access to clean water and safe sanitation? Obviously, that was part of the aspect of cohort one's washing schools campaigns, but all incredibly interesting and obviously all very much interlinked with human and animal health as well. Okay, community health. This seems to be the most popular so far in terms of what people selected for the summit. And we know that a lot of people work in the community health space within AMR. Sorry, just so if this is you, if you're a community health worker, campaigner, activist, we really need to see an innovative way of approaching this. We really want to see something with behavior change at the core of what we're doing. So if you can think of a great social media campaign or a door knocking campaign or whatever it might be that focuses on behavior change, AMR in the community, that would be really fantastic. And this can be sort of across hospitals, across community health, across whatever it is you might want to look at. But again, really interesting, but be innovative in what you're doing. And then finally, language. And this is, again, a really important one for us. Our partners at Black Sands have done a lot of work on the language that we use to communicate effectively about AMR. How do we make sure that it's culturally sensitive, culturally appropriate, that people can understand it, especially people who are like the general public and like not, and they're quite far removed from this topic area. So really interesting to see if anybody does the language one. We would really love to see some applications from that. And again, making it relevant and making it appropriate for global audiences is a real challenge, but something that we'd love to discuss. Okay, some top tips for your campaigns. Remember that behavior change is the focus. This should be at the center of your campaign. Everything that you do needs to be coming back to how do we measure it? Who is the audience? What is the behavior that we want to change? What is the problem that we're trying to solve here? That's really some of the questions that you can ask yourself, ask your team. We're looking for innovation. I know I've mentioned it a few times when we just ran through the categories, but we really want you to think outside the box on this one. Obviously, you can have familiar aspects or familiar approaches, but something that's really exciting and really different to what we've heard before would be something that definitely attracted us. Like I say, use new approaches. Obviously, if you want to read about the East model that we talked about earlier, then do and see how you can integrate that into the campaign work that you're doing. Use new platforms and try and think of different ideas to how to get the message across to the audience that you choose. Don't aim too high. We want the campaigns to be deliverable in the time period that we've got, which is 6 months. So make sure that you're really thinking about what can we achieve and what can we measure within this 6 month period. And like I've mentioned, if you're an expert in community health, if you're an expert in environment, like come at it from a different angle or try one of the different topics or try and merge two of the topics if you wanted to, two of the categories. Okay, moving on to competition outline. So I've mentioned a few things in that last slide, but what we really want from you is to develop and deliver a behavior change campaign based on one of those categories that we previously talked about. There's 6 there. Complete the online application form before the 30th of September 2025. That is the deadline for applications. Winners who ideally, in our ideal world, will represent all the global regions. So we want all 7 regions to be represented, and I think they're outlined on the next slide. So we'll have a look. But if that's not possible, obviously we just want the best global representation that we can. AMR is a global issue, and we just need to make sure that we're engaging with as wide an audience as possible. But winners will be announced in January or February. Obviously, that's subject to contracting, so watch this space. And then we have a winners event online so that we can help you with your plans, go into the detail, and so that you can meet the other global teams. And like I said on the previous slide, campaigns should be delivered within 6 months. So make sure that your campaign is actionable and measurable within that time. And if you can carry it on, if there's other funding that you go for that you makes it sustainable, then fantastic. But for the Trinity Challenge, it's a 6 month project. These are the regions outlined by the World Bank. So Eastern Asia Pacific, Europe and Central Asia, Latin America and the Caribbean, Middle East and North Africa, North America, South Asia, and Sub-Saharan Africa. We're really keen to expand and get as many people from different parts of the world involved as possible. So the eligibility criteria. So how are you eligible? So you need a team of 3 or more people. You can't be an individual and you can't be a pair to apply for this. You need 3 people in your team. And the majority of that team need to be between 18 and 35. And that includes the team lead. The team lead needs to be 18 to 35. And together you can bid for up to 7,500 to deliver your campaign. In order to uh, manage the finances uh, and do the official contracting, you need to be associated or part of an official legally registered organization. So if you're an AMR club within a university, then the university would be the legally registered organization that would manage contracting. If you're a small scale charity with a team working within you, you might be able to do it yourself. You just need to have a bank account in your name. And you can also partner with external organizations or external charities that might be bigger and more set up to manage things like contracting and grant management. Previous winners cannot apply. So this time we're really keen to engage new teams, new audiences. So if you've previously won, then you're not able to apply. So please encourage other people in your networks to do so. And if applicants can have the same contracting organization as previous winners, but the project teams cannot be the same. So that's the eligibility criteria. We're actually just now building our judging panel. So we've got some really fantastic judges already on board and others that we're waiting to work with. And they will be looking for these specific things as part of the evaluation criteria. So I know I've mentioned it a lot of times. Innovation, really key. Thinking about things differently, looking at different angles, being creative, being original. This is the 3rd iteration of this competition now, and we really want to see something exciting. We want to understand what the impact will be. So, like we said, measuring your impact, measuring the behavior change, what was your reach, how are you raising awareness within different groups and organizations or audiences. I mentioned it again previously, but feasibility, how practical is this? How sustainable is the campaign? Is it possible to deliver the whole thing within the time period that you've got? Collaboration. Collaboration is a really important aspect because um, if you, as part of your campaign, if you need to build relationships, if you need to engage with ministries or X, Y, and Z, just make sure that you're thinking about that already. Who are the experts that you want to involve? Who will be part of the co-design of this? Making sure young people are somewhere in there as well. And as always, presentation is key. We talked a little bit about behavior change campaigns, and one of the East letters was attractive. Things do need to look good to get people drawn in. So make sure that your presentations are persuasive and clear, and so people can see the professionalism of what you're trying to achieve. And like I mentioned already as well, global representation is really important to us, so we're going to try and get as wide a spread as possible. Okay, the application form. So this is the application form breakdown. This is what the topic areas will be that are covered. A bit about the campaign name, sort of a summary of what you want to achieve from the campaign, team information, who's the team lead, who else is in the team, what ages are they, what is their role within the team if you have specifics, and then information about the contracting organization. So who is it that you're working with, who is the finance lead there that we can be in touch with for contracting and grant management, and then your campaign proposal. And so this is the section that's slightly different from last time, because obviously we want you to explain about the behavior change aspect of your campaign. So questions we're looking at here, things like What is the problem that you're trying to solve? What is the behavior change that you want to see? Who is the audience base that you're looking to work with? Is it the general public, or is it veterinary students, or is it pharmacies, or is it, um, you know, environmental workers, environmental campaigners, X, Y, and Z. So really have a think about that. Make sure that the behavior change aspect is really front and center in every aspect of this questions. Collaboration and co-design. So we just want to know, like, who are the experts that you're working with? Who is going to make sure that the the proposal that you've come up with uh, is relevant in terms of mitigating AMR? So who do you need to collaborate with? Who is part of the co-design? Like I said before, are you working with ministries? Are you working with schools? Are you working with an activist organization or network? All of those kinds of things are important. Next, we have the budget. So obviously the money bit is very important. It's just a breakdown of how you are going to allocate different parts of the budget. If you need a template for that, then you can email us, and we have a template that we can share with you. And if not, then you can use whatever you've got, or you can just outline quite simply what you're planning on spending the money on. If you look at the whole eligibility criteria as well, there are some guidelines around the budget and what can be paid for and what can't be paid for. You can then share with us any other information that you feel like we haven't covered within the application form, and anything else that you want to share with us. If you have images or posters or anything like that that you wanted to include, then feel free to do it. And then we have a declaration to say everything you've shared with us is true, and um, and you'll have to sign it. Great. Okay, so now we're into the Q&A. And if anyone has any questions, I think Louise will be joining me to answer some questions. And if Rachel's here, then Rachel, also feel free to come in. See if we've had any questions already.
Jenny, would you like me to take over to give your voice a little bit of a break
That would be lovely.
for a
Thank
few
you. Yeah, I'll
minutes?
just have a drink. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Jenny, for leading us through that whole all that information. Lots to take in, but I'm sure there'll be lots of questions as a result as well. So if you do have any questions, please do open up the Q&A function and put them in there. But I have some questions, both that's been submitted and prepared to put to our panel. So first and foremost, let's just say hello to Rachel as well from our partners, Black Sands, who wasn't quite able to join us right at the start, but great to have you here. And we'll hear a bit from you shortly. So Louise, I'm going to come to you first, and I'm going to try roughly section the questions into different areas. So let's start on the sort of design elements of the campaign. So we're obviously looking for behavior change here is integral to these applications. But what can you speak to what level of behavior change we're sort of expecting over what is a relatively small 6-month period of this grant?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Hamish. And hello, everyone. And so great to see so many of you on this Q&A. We really hope that you all decide to apply. So what level of behaviour change are we looking for? Obviously, with our competition, we are fixing the time limit for your campaigns to 6 months, which isn't a huge amount of time. And there are some organisations that will run behaviour change research projects that take several years. So obviously, we're not looking for that kind of end of the scale, but we know that you can make a change within 6 months with a really well-designed, articulated and delivered campaign. So that's why we're focusing on educating for behaviour change. So that really important, crucial first step to allow the community to be more aware of why they might need to change what they're doing. or may need to change the language that they're using around AMR or antibiotic resistance. So we want you to think about your audience really carefully when you're designing your campaign, and think about what that one or two things that they could do differently would be, and make it as clear and kind of simple as possible, because you have a short amount of time to deliver it. And even in that 6-month period, with just starting that journey for behaviour change, we're very keen to see how you're going to measure that impact over time. So I would give you, that's my kind of top tip for you, is as clear as possible and feasible in that time limit. But we're not expecting you to come up with a huge research project in that time. Thanks, Hamish.
Thanks, Louise. Rachel, I'm going to come to you next. Louise mentioned audiences there and target audiences. I wonder whether you have any advice or want to expand on what sort of consideration the teams can be making to who is their target audience and how to sort of refine their campaign to that audience.
Thanks, Hamish. Hi, everyone. So audiences are absolutely key for any campaign, but even more so when thinking about behaviour change. So I would be recommending that you look at who you're able to reach, and deciphering from there who the priority audience might be, and also identify who your secondary audiences could be, just to make sure that you can stay focused when you're making decisions on your spend and any marketing that you're going to be doing. I would also encourage you to consider how many times you think you need to reach your target and priority audience with the message, because we know that it's not going to be just once. Again, particularly with behavior change, you need to be reaching that primary audience multiple times with your campaign to really start to influence the change that you want to achieve. And really mapping out, as I say, who the primary and priority target audience might be, the channels by which you can reach them, and how many times you think you can do that within your activity will really help you in your campaign planning.
Perfect. Thank you, Rachel. So Jenny, coming to you, I wonder if there's any restrictions in where the campaign can be delivered. We've identified audiences there, but perhaps those audiences are in different places, different countries. Do we have to be focused on one individual place, or can projects expand beyond that?
Projects can actually expand beyond that. So if you wanted to, if you were based in one country, but you want to deliver your campaign in multiple countries, then that is allowed. One of our current cohort 2 biosecurity teams has done that, and they were, I think, across 3 different countries in terms of the activity that they were delivering. I would just refer back to what we were saying around feasibility and deliverability, and to make sure that if you want to expand beyond your town or your city or your country, that you already have networks in those other places, because it's very difficult to start from zero in a 6-month campaign. So just make sure that if you want to reach further, you already have a great network, because that's what the team did previously. The organization that they worked with had a really good, strong network that they could tap into, which made it much easier for them. So that's the only thing I would say. But yes, you can reach beyond one individual place.
And just related to that, can you just confirm if, from a team perspective or collaborators, whether individuals within a team have to be in the same place or the same organization or the same country even? Can, as much as projects can be rolled out across different areas, can collaborators also work together from different places?
Yeah, you can definitely work together from different places. The most important thing for us is having the contracting organization in one country where it's legally registered and where we can send the money to a registered bank account, etc., etc. So in terms of where the team is, how it's spaced out over different organizations or countries, that's really up to you. But the most important for us is to have one contracting organization who has the ability to send the money to you as well, because we'll send the money to them, but then they'll have to share it with you as well. So it's just making sure that those if you cross country or anything, that those things are in place.
Can I just add to that, Hamish?
Please do.
So there's a specific question about selecting 2 regions that's related to this that's come through. So like Jenny said, your lead organisation, you select that region for that organisation. And then in the country section, you can explain if you're going to be working in countries that go beyond that lead organisation, that lead region. And I think I'd just add to the feasibility question there as well. Just be careful that you know how to move money if you need to. So your lead organisation, they may or may not be able to make payments in a different region of the world, and even different countries. So just bear that in mind when you're planning your campaign and your operations. Thanks.
Thanks, Louise. I'm going to come back to a number of questions on sort of the practicalities of what type of organisations we accept, we are eligible, etc. But focusing in on design still for just a moment. Louise, I'm going to come to you with a couple of specific questions from Rodell. Apologies for any names that I'm not pronouncing correctly. So they are asking about whether when they're proposing their campaign, whether it can focus on quantitative research as well as qualitative approaches, or whether we have any restriction in how the project is designed and what sort of information they're using as a source of their behaviour change mechanism.
Great question, thank you. So that's really up to you. You know your community, you know your project really well, and we're expecting you to select the best methodology that suits your campaign and your plans. So it could be quantitative, it could be qualitative. But again, if it's a very detailed research project, just be really clear on that feasibility side of things, the 6 months that you have. Do you have enough time to gather data before you then move into the most important bit, which is the campaigning to influence behaviour change?
Thank you. And a follow-up question from Rodell as well was whether these campaigns have to focus very specifically on the use of antibiotics, or whether they can focus on broader awareness raising around AMR as a subject.
Yeah, again, great question. We're really interested in the category you select, but beyond that, you can really design that campaign in the best way that you see fit to make the most difference in the community that you're working in.
Thanks, Louise. Talking of categories, this has come up in the chat as well. Jenny, I'll come to you. Are we looking for teams to select one category, or can teams work across multiple different categories in their application?
Yeah, great question. So teams can work across multiple categories. If you want to focus just on one, then that's absolutely fine. If you wanted to focus on 2 or more, then again, absolutely fine. It's just making sure that, like we said, the behavior change that you want to focus on is the center of that campaign. But we understand that there's a significant crossover within the One Health environment. So especially with things like, livestock, animals and food chain, or, I mean, they all could cross over really. It's so yeah, you're more than welcome to do more than one category if that fits in with your campaign better.
Thanks. And just to flag that from an application point of view, you will be restricted there to choosing on a category rather than multiple categories. So you should certainly have a primary category that you're working to, and it may well be that these different lenses and different categories feed into that. But you should build your campaign around a primary category. But we know that there's potential for lots of overlap between those. Okay, just a reminder to audiences, where you can, please try use the Q&A functionality, because it makes us look in one place, but I understand that some people might not have access to that, so we're also monitoring the chat. So I'm going to come to a few sort of practical questions, lots of questions about the types of organisations. that can apply. So Jenny, I'll put this to yourself. Are there any restrictions in the types of organizations that can apply? For example, a few specific questions that have come up. Can universities apply? Do you have to be, and it may be worth talking about whether it has to be a not-for-profit organization or a for-profit organization. Can you speak to that a little?
Yeah, sure. So, yes, universities can apply with the clubs within universities, but universities can definitely be the contracting partner. Um, Government organizations cannot apply, and not-for-profits definitely can apply. For-profit organizations can apply, but there is a restriction in terms of how much money they make per year, which is part of the eligibility criteria and available to everyone to look at the detail of that. But we've worked with small scale private companies or companies that are not for profit before as well. So yes, lots of different variety, but there are some restrictions. But I do recommend looking at the eligibility criteria because it gives you the exact numbers of a profit for profit organizations. But yeah, definitely no for government organizations. Hope that
Great,
answers
thank
it.
you. Thank you. And Louise, I'll come to you just to explain a little further. Does the team which is applying need to be part of that organization, the contractual organization, or can they be a separate group? Can you just explain the relationship between those two?
Yeah, sure. So the team that runs the campaign work can be separate to their contracting organisation, but there has to be some, of course, some sort of recognised relationship between the two, because if your contracting relationship is taking the grant agreement on for you, taking the responsibility on for monitoring the finances and things for you, then there has to be some sort of relationship. And we will ask you to let us know what that relationship is. In the past, that has tended to be a letter of support that's on sort of headed paper and signed by the contracting organisation, just to show what the relationship is between those two groups of people, but they can be separate. Hope that's clear.
Thanks. And that leads on nicely to a further question, which I'm able to answer, which a couple of questions in the same topic, which came through a moment ago. You spoke about a letter of support there. We do require that letter of support, but it's not required at the point of application. So we'd recommend that applicants have that relationship at least broadly in place, because once you do apply and once we start our judging phase, we move through that process quite quickly. So you don't really have a huge amount of time to come up with a relationship fresh. So we certainly recommend that you have the basics of an understanding with an organization at the point of application. But as far as evidencing that is concerned, that won't be required until we get through our first round of judging and we enter into a shortlist. Jenny, can I pass over to you? We've got a question from Rajab, which is, can previous winning organizations apply? So not the individuals within that organization, but can the organization itself apply again? Could you speak to that and also perhaps just expand on the point you made earlier about individuals within those previous winning teams?
Yeah, sure. So so the contracting organization can support a brand new team to apply and deliver a campaign. So a winning organization from a previous team can support a brand new team to apply this time around. But individuals and previous teams are not able to apply this time. We really want to support as many different organizations as we can with this funding. And so if we keep giving the money to the same teams or the same individuals, then that's really limiting the impact that we can have. So what we want to do is spread it as far and wide as possible in terms of region, country, and organization as we can. But yes, technically, the contracting organizations that have previously supported teams can apply with a new team.
Great, thank you.
Can I just segue another question that I saw, which
Of
might have
course,
gone
please do.
hidden? So someone asked if organizations can submit 2 projects with different team leads. So yes, you could, but just do know that we would not give 2 prizes to one organization. So we would probably recommend that you put all your energy into one application. But if you wanted to do 2 different applications on 2 different categories, then you can do that. But it's a definite no that one organization would win 2 funding pots. So just so that you know that.
Thanks for that extra clarification, Jenny. I'm going to run through a few quick fire answers to a few questions which relate to this. So one was whether we ask on the application for a website to be provided for the organisation. So we've got a question of whether that's an essential. The answer to that is that it's not. We are what we are looking for there is some proof, some online presence that this organisation exists. So it may well, we recognise that not all organisations have a website. So you can also provide a link to, say, an active social media account on part of that organisation, but really any online source, which just gives us a clear understanding of who the organisation is and that they exist. We've also got a couple of questions of whether the organisations need to be operating within the AMR space, whether they need to be specialists in this area. And again, the answer is no there. What we do ask is that there's the organisation has a sort of commitment to driving this forward. It has to have some at least tangible interest and relevance to the health space and to global health, but it doesn't have to be an AMR organization, as long as it has it can support you in delivery of this campaign, and has some level of relevant expertise, which isn't necessarily AMR specific. It could be more broadly in global health or in regional policy, etc. Then you that would be absolutely fine. So I hope that answers a few of the questions that we have outstanding here. Jenny, I'm going to come back to you again and just tick off a few of our questions. So can a team, we've said it has to be a minimum of 3 people. Is there a maximum to that team size?
I don't think there is a maximum to the team size. If you were an AMR university club and there's 20 people in the club and they all want to be a part of making this campaign work, then that's fantastic. You might have a leadership group within that is sort of leading on the organization that you would name in the application. You don't feel like you have to name every volunteer that's going to be a part of working on this. They can still be a part of the team, even if they're not named in the application, even if you just have like key organizers named in the application. But there's no upper limit to how many people can be involved in delivering the campaign.
Thanks. And related to that, as people are thinking about building their teams, what sort of information are we looking for about the individual team members in their application?
So really, we just want to know the name, the age application, because obviously we're asking for the majority of the team to be aged between 18 and 35. So we'll need to know age application. And then if you want to share their role within the organization or their role within the team, within the campaign team, then that's also interesting to us, but it doesn't need to go into too much detail about team members at this point. And obviously, if you were selected, then we would get to know you in a much more detailed way anyway. But really, it's just a name, a contact email address, the age application, and their role within the team as part of this campaign delivery.
And we had another question, which is about how we consider the sort of professional background of individuals. And I think that's really for applicants, you as an applicant, to explain to us why your expertise or background is relevant to the delivery of these projects. It's going to be completely different depending on the nature of your campaign and your the area that you're speaking to. And so we welcome applications from a range of backgrounds and equally cross-specialist background teams with different people bringing different expertise to the fore. So please do just explain that in your application. Fantastic. Louise, I'm going to come to you with a question, which was someone looking to clarify whether government employees are eligible to apply.
Thanks, Hamish. It really depends. We can't give the money to a government organisation, so highly unlikely that the sort of government employee would also be able to be part of a team. But there may be government employees that volunteer in an AMR group or a different kind of sort of organisation or not-for-profit in their local community. And so they'd be part of a team, but not in their government role or government capacity. I hope that's clear.
Thank you. And Jenny, I'm going to ask us, it's relevant to a few questions that have popped up. There's a question about whether a university club can apply. Now, we've had a university club in the past and be a recipient of this. Can you just speak to what the relationship needs to be in terms of that club being an official body unto itself or the university itself being the contracting party?
Thanks, Hamish. Yeah, sure. So yes, we had a university AMR club in Uganda who won in our first cohort of winners. But it's the university that would be the contracting partner. So one of the key elements when you're selecting your organization to be a contracting partner is that they need to have a bank account in their name. We cannot send money to individual bank accounts. So if there's a bank account that is, for the chair of the AMR club, we wouldn't be able to send money to that person. We have to send it to a legally registered organization. So if it's an AMR club at a university, the university would need to be the contracting organization. And usually we've worked with like universities in Latin America and in Africa, and they're often very supportive of the clubs that are within the university. So often they're very happy to be a part of the contracting team. So I would recommend, if you're looking for a contracting partner, reaching out to the university itself rather than the AMR club, although also involve the AMR club in terms of the delivery of the campaign. But for contracting and grant management, it has to be the university, really.
Thank you. And sticking on the theme of both universities and perhaps just larger organizations, can multiple teams, different teams from within one large organization apply, or are we restricted to one application per organization?
Multiple teams can apply, but like we said, it's incredibly unlikely and almost 100% no that we would give the same organization 2 grants. So just think about where you want to put your energy and where you want to put the focus of what you're doing, because we really want the global representation to be there, and so it's unlikely that we would give one organization 2 grants.
Thanks, Jenny. Sorry, I lost my mute button there for a moment. A good thing, many often say when that happens. Just a note, we will be sharing a copy of this, a recording of this presentation online with those who have registered. So we'll share that afterwards. I think we've gotten through most of the questions. And we're running in about 5 minutes left. So please do repost your question if we haven't answered it yet. So just coming to a practical question that someone's posted, which is there any word limit to the application? And more generally, and I'll put this to you, Jenny, would you have any recommendations on how to put your best foot forward when it comes to writing about your potential campaign?
Great question. So there'll be an opportunity to give a summary version, which for me is the most important thing because I love a short pitch. And so I think making sure that even if you have the full campaign plan with all the detail, how you're going to select your audience, who's your secondary audience, what's the behavior change that you want to focus on, how are you going to measure it, all of those key elements that we've discussed in this Q&A webinar, but then make sure that you can summarize it as best as possible in that summary section, because for all of our judges, they're going to be reading through every single part of your application, and you really want to stand out as best you can for them. I also just quickly want to mention, should I mention about AI?
Yes, that'd be useful.
Okay, so we completely understand that many of the people who are applying to the Trinity Challenge for funding have English as a second language, and therefore may use AI, ChatGPT, Grammarly, other kinds of supporting tools in order to finesse the language that they use within their application. So just to let you know that that isn't a problem. We do allow you to do that, but if you were successful and went through to the interview stage, we would just want you to explain how you used it, and that we really don't want you to use it to come up with an idea. We want this idea to be yours, to be something that's relevant to you and your community, and to something that you think you can deliver in the 6 month time period that you have. So use your own brains, use your own ideas, co-design with the people involved in your organization. And then if you need to finesse the language, or if you want to improve on certain aspects, then that's fine. But we really want it to be your idea. So just to keep that in mind when applying.
Thanks, Jenny. We've got a few minutes left, so we've got a couple of outstanding questions which I'll ask, but I would just say generally, is following the webinar, if you do have other questions as you're starting to prepare your application, please do just contact us on email via info@thetrinitychallenge.org, which can be found on our website. And I'd also recommend that everyone goes to the Youth Voices page of the Trinity Challenge website, which we'll post again momentarily, where you'll find a frequently asked questions section. So I've got a couple more questions. This one I will point towards you, Jenny. If someone's within the youth age limit but works in the university, can they be a member of the team, or can they be the team lead? So I think ultimately the question here is, we've spoken about how you can be separate from the contracting organization, and that's possible, and you can be within the contracting organization. Can you just reiterate any restrictions around that?
Yes, sure. So yes, if someone works at the university and that is the contracting, they can also be a part of the team. The only situation where that doesn't occur is if it's a government organization, which is what Louise talked about earlier, because we can't give money to government organizations. But if you are within the age limit, or if you're older, or probably not younger if you've got a job, but if you're older, then you can also be a part of the team, but just the majority of the team has to be within that age limit. So yes, people who work at the contracting organizations can also be a part of the team. And sometimes that might be helpful in terms of how you work together. So yeah, definitely.
Thank you. I'm going to come to Louise for another question, and then as a final question to everyone in the panel, I'm going to ask you each for your one piece of advice to potential applicants in this process. So I'll come back to Jenny and Rachel, and then Louise finally. So just think up an answer for that. But Louise, just a practical question for you first. Is it possible to have a collaboration with organisations that have the same goals to carry out the campaign after receiving funds? And I think also to add to that, which I think is related, can this be part of a broader campaign which outlasts the initial 6 month period?
I think the quickest way to answer that is absolutely 100% yes. I think it would be amazing if the work that we support you to do and fund you to do carries on after this 6-month period and after this funding has been spent, I think that would be fantastic. I think sustainability would be a brilliant thing to happen, and we'd love to be able to share that impact.
Thanks, Louise. Okay, Jenny, I'm gonna apologies to any questions we haven't got to. If you do have any outstanding questions, please do just email them into us and we'll happily answer them following the webinar. But to wrap up, I'm going to come to Jenny first and then Rachel. Jenny, can you give us your one piece of advice for our applicants?
My one piece of advice is to do something exciting, do something that you care about. Really like we see the passion in people's work when it's there, and that's why it being an idea that comes from you and comes from your community is incredibly important in this application. So do something you care about, make it be impactful and positive for your community. Thanks.
Thanks, Jenny. Rachel, coming to you, what would your piece of recommendation, piece of advice be?
Thanks, Hamish. Mine is to think of a really strong campaign name and call to action. So with your core primary audience in mind, and to consider even testing that if you can with people around you to check that it's going to land with your audiences.
Thanks, Rachel. Excellent advice. And finally, Louise.
Thank you. I was just about to say testing. Test it, like Rachel's already said, so test with your friends and family. I think that's really good advice. But beyond that, I think we want you to be creative and ambitious, but also it needs to be feasible. And we really need it to be delivered really well and have some great impact within a 6-month period, which isn't all that long once you get going and you do your planning and things like that. So yeah, be ambitious, but also realistic is my advice. Thanks, Hamish.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Louise, and thanks to everyone for answering these questions. As I say, do contact us on info@the-Trinity Challenge if you have any other questions we haven't managed to get to yours, and we'll happily answer them. Okay, Jenny, passing back to you.
I realised that I stopped sharing my screen just now, and I shouldn't have, because we need to tell you to follow us on all these social media channels, because we'll be giving updates throughout the campaign period, throughout the application period. So watch this space. Also, highly recommend signing up to our newsletter, because they're the people who get the information first. So if that's what you want, then go to our website, and it's just up in the top corner. You can click on join our newsletter, and then we'll send regular information to you about this opportunity and also other opportunities. But yes, follow us on social media. We're on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and we can share as much information as we can there. I think that was everything, wasn't it? And do email us if you need anything, ask any questions. No question is a stupid question. We love to hear from you, so give us a shout. And I think that's everything. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you to our panelists, to Hamish for doing all the hard work in the background, to Louise and Rachel for answering questions with us. And good luck with your applications. We know that there's going to be some fantastic ideas and campaigns in there. And remember, behavior change is at the core of everything within this. So think about that primarily, and then build your application and your campaign from that. But yes, thanks everybody, and have a great day.